Hey lads, Galaxy Boy here, welcome back to Building Tips, and today we are looking at one specific thing I see all across the internet, and that is gradients. I see gradients all the time. I think it's sort of a trend in the Minecraft community. It's a good one, but better than some other ones you see on the internet, but you know. Anyway. So today's video is going to be all about gradients and how to make gradients. And the basic concept of a gradient here is that you're transitioning from one color to another. And you can actually make gradients based on texture, as in blocks of the same color but using different textures. Say like polished andesite to stone brick to stone, right? Let's just do that real quick. That's kind of a texture-based gradient, where the color itself does not change a whole lot, but the texture does. Anyway, most people make gradients where the color is the main thing that's changing, and here I've demonstrated a very obvious gradient from dark to light. And in this gradient, I've used coal blocks, blackstone, cobbled deepslate, tuff, cobblestone, diorite, calcite, smooth quartz, and snow. And overall, most people will not go this hard in terms of a gradient. A lot of the time, you'll only see about 2 to 3 colors, 3 to 4 colors rather. In the mix. And I think one thing I find that's very interesting is how the gradient works, is that your eyes will kind of immediately look at the darker section and then move to the lighter section. So if you see these two gradients here, I've done it so where the coal block is on bottom and the coal block is on top. And in both instances, you start looking at you look at the coal block first, and then move down and gradually get to the snow, which I find very interesting. So, when you're applying a gradient, be sure to know where you want the viewer's eye to look, and where to look first, and where you want them to look last. And that makes sense. If you want them to look down, or you want them to look up at something. In a lot of cases, having it start from the bottom and looking up can give a false sense of height. Not necessarily like you're tricking them, but you're kind of tricking them, if that makes sense. To get your build to look taller without actually being taller, if you get what I mean. And there are certain applications where going from dark to light like this can work too. And here's an example of a gradient using the same blocks, but mixing around all the blocks to make it look more seamless. And you can see how effective gradients can actually work in a build. You can imagine, like, in a build, in a setting where these blocks are used, this would look really good, or mean a really effective gradient. And here in this example, the gradient is it's a very small gradient. It's a very as in, like, the transition period between each block is very short. And I've only done that just to make a quick example of gradients, but you can definitely widen out these gradients in order to make it look more smooth. Or you can go the way I've done it and make the gradient very the way I've done it here, to where it looks a bit rougher and all that sort of stuff. There's really a lot of things you can do with gradients, and in all my building tips videos, I really recommend experimenting on what blocks transition well into each other, and you can only do that with experimenting. So, yeah, the other form of gradient here I want to show you is not necessarily from light to dark, but from one color to another. Now here I just built a very simple rainbow, and this is to demonstrate to you that like a very like gradients really don't need to be super smooth and subtle, because if you look here, this is a gradient, a rainbow, from the violet here, which is purple, to the red here. It works as an actual gradient. Your eyes will naturally move up and down the rainbow and go through the selection of colors. So this is just an example of how it's not just going from light to dark, but from one color to another. Now, it does not need to be this intense of a transition, right? Because these are some pretty harsh colors, but in some cases that can actually work to your advantage. But you can easily just make it red, orange, and yellow, or green, blue, and indigo, which is also blue, but you know, indigo. You can even do it red, pink, white. Gradients work in a lot of different ways, and it's not just in the simplest form. And yeah, that's all I have for this video. I know it's not like a super in-depth video here about gradients, but this is just a basic synopsis, as it were, on how to build gradients and how they work and how you can apply them into your own worlds and builds. So as always, I will see you lads later. Take care.